Welcome back to the Own It podcast. My name's Dion, and this is a bit of a follow-on from last week's episode where we discussed a lot of frequently asked questions, but I wanted to hone in on one specific question from Jenna, which was if a property says it's accepting offers over X amount, or there's a range, 1 to 1.1, or there's a single asking price at $1 million, is it still worth offering under that, or is that their strategy to potentially overprice a property and get you to go in over, under? Anyway, let's just discuss it. Let's just break this down. First of all, you have to start at the basics, and the basics when it comes to this is knowing what a property's worth. So pricing a property up is really important. Now, the best way to do it is actively be in the marketplace, actively be going through open for inspections, looking at auctions, seeing what things sell for. That's the best way to learn what properties are worth. But also, once you find a property you like, take a bit of time, get the laptop out. I know there's this sort of like a meme going around. There's like laptop jobs and iPhone jobs. Like a laptop job is a more important job. This is definitely a laptop sort of job. Get the laptop out, go on realestate.com, look in the last 3 months and go and do a price range on what you think the property is roughly worth. So it's quoted, let's say 6 to 660. Do it from like 500 to 800,000, right? Do a price range, put in the same amount of bedrooms, put in the same amount of bathrooms, and then go look in the last 3 months in a similar area. So go on the map view, what are things selling for? Now, if the property you like is renovated and there's unrenovated properties, then you have to factor in renovations on top or vice versa. So you have to start to work out what the property's worth. Now, you're not going to know exactly what it's worth. I could never say exactly what a property's worth, but we can all sort of give indications on what we think property is worth. So let's use this example of a $600,000 to $660,000 property. If we price it up and we think it's worth $700,000, then we come back to the question of, should we still offer under it? The answer to that is probably no. And then on the flip is, hey, if it is quoted 6 to 660 and we think it's worth 550 or 5 to 550, do we offer under? Absolutely. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean a vendor is going to take your offer or be prepared to take your offer, because that's the other thing you have to understand too. It's priced like that for a reason. Potentially an agent's come in, appraised the property, and the vendors have said that they wanted 650,000, and the agents say, hey, we think it's probably worth 500 and something, but let's see how it goes first with your quote. So this is the other thing, because if it's quoted 6 to 660, you don't want to make an offer at 590 when it's worth 550, and you just think, oh, I'm buying it under the range. That's a good deal. That's why it's so important to know what properties are worth. So sometimes you shouldn't even offer. I know that sounds weird, but if a vendor is chasing 650, there is no point even offering 550, 560, even at the upper end of what you think it's worth, just to try to get it done. Sometimes a vendor needs to see the process play out. And what I'm talking about is a vendor going through potentially failing an auction campaign, going through weeks of opens where no one's doing anything because it's overpriced. Vendors need to see that process play out for them to start to understand and see the social proof that their property is not worth as much as they thought. The scariest thing and the worst thing you could do as a buyer is play the rule of thumb game where you see properties quoted between 6 to 660 sell for 700 week in, week out, and think that is the case for every property that goes to auction. Everything that goes to auction must be worth 10% more, because buyers do this. And this is where buyers fall into the trap of overpaying. This is the easiest way buyers overpay, because they see 6 to 660 and they go, oh, well, if I could buy this one for 660, then that's a great deal. But you have to understand quotes and what properties are worth are two different things. Just like a property can be quoted 6 to 660 and sell for 700, the same can apply. A property could be quoted 6 to 660 and sell for 550. So it always comes back to knowing what properties are worth. And the best way to do this is simply looking through sold results, going to auctions, going to opens. And then once you're sort of in tune with what the market is doing, what other buyers are prepared to pay, this is where you don't fall into the trap of overpaying on a property that you shouldn't be overpaying on. I know this episode was a little bit shorter than other episodes, but I really just wanted to kind of spend a bit more time breaking this down, because I think it's really important. And I think from a buyer agent perspective, that's my biggest fear, that people go overpay on properties. Because when I was an agent, that's what would happen. We would have a quote. We'd go, oh, the vendor wants too much. but that's what they're prepared to quote it at. And a buyer would come along week one and think, this is my chance to buy, and bang, overpay. So I wanted to spend time on this to really break it down so people understand how quotes and values work. They're two different things, and you have to be able to work out what values are. Ranges are there just to attract you to get into a property. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I'm pretty sure on the next episode, we're going to be talking about auctions, strategies, breaking down the whole process. So if you're interested to hear all about that, stay tuned, have a great week, and we'll catch you in the next one.